Sabah khair, good morning everyone, and welcome to the Kuwait Public Policy Center. Today we have an interesting lecture, although it's summer and I know that a lot of people are on vacation, and we decided to keep this lecture a bit of an internal lecture for our staff for the purpose of education and awareness. Today's subject is a very interesting subject that we care about and we'd like to educate ourselves on. So we brought you one of the world-class experts on artificial intelligence. The idea of today's workshop/lecture is Elena will give us a brief introduction about artificial intelligence and its applications worldwide, and some good business case studies that have used artificial intelligence, and whereby we can lead the technological front with regards to applying AI in government structures. Without further ado, I will allow Elena to talk about herself, her background, where she has studied, her interest in AI, and what she plans on briefing us today with regards to the lecture. So, Elena, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alabite, for this introduction, and welcome everyone to our lecture today, which is called The Era of Artificial Intelligence. We are talking about artificial intelligence, but we still had some technical issues this morning, so I'm very, very sorry for the delay, and but I hope we will enjoy it and we will spend 1.5 hours, 2 hours discussing about this topic. I would like to put back the music and just give you a few seconds to breathe that in, take that in, and I have a few questions for you after that. Alright, I will not take very much of your time with this music. I'm curious to know what do you think about this music? Did you like it? You liked it? Okay. Was kind of a classical music, right? Do you know who wrote this music? Yes. Exactly. So this music is created by artificial intelligence, which is a machine. The name of the artist is artificial intelligence virtual artist. You can find many videos on YouTube if you want to explore a little bit more about that. But that's exactly the point for our discussion and for our presentation today is to introduce you to many aspects of artificial intelligence. And we find artificial intelligence, this type of technology today, in every kind of aspect of our lives. We have it in music, and we also have it in arts. What you see on the screen, better this way, is a piece of art created by a machine, created by artificial intelligence. I hope that you will understand a little bit later in the presentation how this works, and you will be maybe as curious and as excited as I am about this topic. Another element is that, down on the bottom of the screen, you can see that PowerPoint or Microsoft has already integrated voice recognition. That is another type of artificial intelligence technology, and I'm not sure I'm going to show you that slide later on, but I have another slide on which identifies, for example, you have a PDF file on your computer, you have no machine installed, artificial intelligence, nothing, just a normal PDF. The machine will automatically identify what you have in that PDF. So in case if you have a picture, your machine will tell you, oh, this is a picture with a man or a tree. It will recognize the content of your picture, and that's image recognition. That is another type of artificial intelligence used today. But just a few words about this piece of art created by a machine. I think it's pretty, it could be pretty real actually, and we could think that a real painter has done it. It was exhibited for the second time in Germany at the Artificial Intelligence Art Exhibition, and actually the first piece of art which was created and sold in the world was sold in Christie's in London for over $400,000. So this is pretty impressive if you think that all this kind of hype on the technology started just a few years ago, and we made it so far already. Now, a few words about myself. As Faris has already mentioned, my name is Elena Ardelean. I am from Romania, and I'm passionate about change and about technology. This is one of the reasons why I'm here today in Kuwait, is because I want to learn about different cultures and different countries, and I want to get out of my comfort zone and, more important than that, contribute and shape societies and cultures in which I live. I have a background in economics, and I also have worked for many years in ICT. In Paris, I have implemented ICT projects. And I was very much in touch, or really looked into the human factor, human dimension of implementing such projects and understanding the transition, understanding the change that is going to be induced by these technologies. Apart from that, I have worked with the World Bank, with the European Investment Bank, and also with the European Union for many years in the governance sector, which is public administration reforms, anti-corruption, transparency, public management, and so on and so forth. But I'm not here today to talk about myself. I'm here today to talk about artificial intelligence. And why I am interested in this topic is because I see a tremendous potential and also huge opportunities, but also challenges in applying and understanding these technologies. There is already a gap if we think in terms of economic gap or also social gap, geographically, within countries, within a nation, and having this technology there is a risk that this technology can increase these gaps, but as I said, there are also huge potential and opportunities brought by this technology, and I want to help citizens, people, governments understand a little bit better technologies, embrace them, and use them in their own benefit. And for today, I have prepared a few things that I would like to talk to or discuss with you. 5 main topics. So we will look a little bit into what is artificial intelligence, and I talked a little bit about at the beginning with some of you, and some of you are here today because you are curious. You are here because maybe you have heard about artificial intelligence before. So we will dig a little bit more into that and also look at the history of artificial intelligence and the evolution. Then we are going to discuss, or I will try to explain to you how artificial intelligence works. Obviously not from a technical point of view, but in terms of application, in terms of kind of high-level technology that's behind it. Then we will go into concrete application and the use of this technology. We will discuss about challenges and opportunities, and we will try to address very briefly how artificial intelligence can enhance economic growth. Since we are here now in this building, I think it's important to talk about that as well. And I will give you a brief overview of national artificial intelligence strategies, countries around the world that have developed strategies and are in the process of implementing them. And we'll also talk about the importance of international cooperation in that sense, and also kind of link of this technology with the progress on the Sustainable Development Goals. I want this to be very interactive. I'm not a university teacher, professor, so I'm not used to just giving lectures. I'm used to having an interactive conversation. So please, if there is anything that you would like to explore, you would like to understand better, don't wait until the end of the presentation. Just raise your hand and ask whatever question you have. All right. Great. So our first topic: what is artificial intelligence? It's scary, no? Many people are afraid of it. They hear a lot of things related to robots who is going to replace the human being. But in fact, artificial intelligence is not new. It exists since many years, and I will detail on that a little bit. And we even had it on movies, you know. This is a movie this is David Hasselhoff in the movie Knight Rider. I have to remind myself, and that was in the 1982, right? So in 1982, you had movies with very, very creative movie makers, right? Where they would think and talk about autonomous driving, and that was fiction back then. But look at this. Today, this is reality. So we are not that far from having this or making this happening. And actually, back in the history, people have thought about humans interacting with machine for a long time. This is another example from movie Silent Running, also 1972, where Lowell is Lowell, I don't know exactly how to pronounce it, is the main character, and he tries to teach these two machines how to grow plants without sunlight. So back then, scientists thought that that's impossible. We definitely need sunlight for growing plants. But again, look at this. So we have farming in laboratories, and this type of farming, it's called cyber agriculture. Everything that's grown in laboratories without sunlight and with many other artificial help, I would say, it's called cyber agriculture. And guess what? It's much better, or it gives better results than normal agriculture, because there are algorithms behind artificial intelligence technology which can calculate how many, in terms of light, how many ingredients we need for a plant, and so on and so forth. So it's definitely the progress is very, very fast, and the opportunities are also very, very significant. All right. So I introduced a little bit the topic about artificial intelligence. Now, for a historical point of view, I have started on the slide with 1940. But it's important for you to know that in the literature we find references to kind of a technology or an idea of human interacting with machine back in the 19th century. And maybe you have heard about Arthur Clarke or Isaac Asimov. These are literature writers, very important authors who have written a lot of fiction books about this type of technology. And also Jules Verne, maybe if you have heard, again, is another example that some people were really thinking ahead and imagined how a human could interact with the machine. And then, of course, you have movies such as Star Trek or Metropolis from 1920s, again highlighting this idea. But for the scientists, for the first time when they started talking about machine learning, that kind of technology, from a more scientific point of view, the whole revolution started in 1940s with Norbert Wiener, who was the first who said, what if a human could really interact with a machine from a scientific point of view? What if we would be able to break down the human behavior, human cognition, to make it so detailed that these details could be put into a machine. So it started in 1940, and then it became a discipline in 1956, and it had a winter period, a dark period in the 1970s. What happened there was that, as it is the case with many experiments, they don't run perfectly from the beginning. So there was, in the 1950s, 1960s, was a huge hype on machine learning and robots, and then the experiments were not that successful. So people and governments lost interest in investing in the research on machine learning, and this is why we are calling this phase of artificial intelligence the winter phase, sorry. Then you may have heard about what happened in 1997, where IBM, one of the biggest technology companies in the world, have created Deep Blue. And this program, Deep Blue, managed to defeat the chess world champion in 1997. Does anyone know who the chess champion was? Garry Kasparov, a Russian. So he was the top of the top back then, and this machine managed to defeat him. So Garry Kasparov was really surprised, and he thought this cannot be possible. There is a trick, there is a lie, there is something behind it. So he asked to redo the game. He asked to redo the game the third time, the fourth time, 6 times. He asked IBM to let him play with the machine 6 times. Every time he was defeated. So yes, machines or that program was much stronger than Garry Kasparov, so he had to recognize that science has moved way ahead. Then in more recently, 2011, like 14 years later, IBM with the same program, Deep Blue, manages to defeat Jeopardy champions. Back by then, in 2011, Deep Blue, the same program, was 100 times faster than it has been previously in 1997. This is just to illustrate the speed with which technology is progressing. And then even more recently, 2015, DeepMind, also IBM, but a different program, manages to defeat Fan Hui in games of Go. Again, another champion. I don't play all these games, Go, but for me it's really impressive to see how quick technology really moved ahead and how it can absorb some of the human behavior, some of the human's capability. And any questions to the kind of development, evolution of artificial intelligence? Just to give you a background that it's really not new. It exists since a long time, and I will touch upon why is it so important today, and why is everybody talking about it. So, but let's give it a definition. Defining AI today. Some of you have phones, right, in their hands. Okay, and these phones have either Alexa or Siri, yeah? Okay. Did anyone have the curiosity to ask Siri what artificial intelligence is? You can do that now. Come on, take your phones out. I will take my phone out, and I will do it now. So you have to activate Siri. In case you don't have it activated, I will do it for you. Okay, so Siri. Siri. Hello.
Hey Siri.
Hi Siri.
Hey Siri.
Hey Siri.
Go ahead.
What is artificial intelligence?
In computer science, artificial intelligence, sometimes called machine intelligence, is intelligence demonstrated by machines, in contrast to the natural intelligence displayed by humans. Would you like to hear more?
No, thank you. That's enough. Done. It's really amazing. So there are many definitions of artificial intelligence, and of course some are more technical than others. But I picked up these two, and I really like the first one. I think it describes with very simple terms what artificial intelligence is. So it's software, any kind of technology, a program. A program is a base of algorithms that mimic human cognition and perception. And you may have seen this graph before. It has artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning. So basically, machine learning and deep learning are subsets of artificial intelligence. They are not different, they are just subsets with different function. Machine learning is any type of technology that can be taught to a machine by an action and a result. So the machine will learn that, if I do this, then I'll get that result, and that wasn't great, so I will have to do it this way. Just by repeating tasks, machine can get much better. And deep learning is layers of this kind of action. But in our case, we can then put like images or the voice recognition, and then you'll get something like this. So in terms of in terms of image recognition, you will get a machine who would be able, it's already, I'm integrating it as a human, which would be able to create art. like we saw at the beginning of the presentation. So that's mainly, in very broad terms, of course, what the difference between this type of technologies. So what makes it so special today, and why is everybody talking about artificial intelligence? There are three main components, and the first one is really the data availability. So I looked a little bit into numbers, and I found that Domos, which is a cloud software company based in the US, they looked at the internet traffic per minute. And they identified that internet is receiving, I have to look down the numbers, over 3 million gigabyte of data every minute. Over 3 million gigabyte of data every minute. If you wonder what that means 13 million texts per minute, plus over 400 hours of video YouTube's uploaded, plus 7 new articles published on Wikipedia every minute. It's a huge amount of data available, which makes, as I said, possible then to train different machines and then get better business processes, better business models. And having all that, having a better data, having a better business processes, which help us do better decisions or make better decisions, you'll have an increased productivity as well. Questions so far? Okay, I'm just checking in from time to time. Okay, so but how does it work? How does AI work in general? And I wanted to give you a quick idea of differences, let's say, between a human and a machine, apart from the obvious one, or better said, the type of technology that these machines are applying. So, quick question to you again. What do you think are we humans better at than the machines? Emotion. True. What else? Sorry? Creativity. Creativity again, yes.
Empathy, consciousness.
True. All right. Yes, that's all very, very, very true. And the list is not exhaustive, obviously, but I just wanted to highlight these differences, and especially, as you can see, machines are really good at large data sets, complex calculation, so all that analytical part of data, machines are really good at, and this will be mainly to tasks and processes which will be then are already replaced by machines, but which will be definitely done by the machines in the future, because they are much faster and they are more precise than we humans are. Then complex calculation, learning, and automation. And then there are things that we are good at together, like the machine and the human being. And the technology itself can definitely enhance our productivity, our capabilities, and of course tied with upskilling work or human capital development that has to go into that. And any kind of government or company which will be able to capture that innovation and integrate it in its own policies, in its own programs, will have a much more competitive advantage on the market and globally in the world than any other countries. And we will go a little bit into that later in the presentation. Now, just to give you an idea of domains, application of artificial intelligence, we were discussing a little bit before about the visualization, which is kind of a deep learning and which is machine learning, and all this so visualization, data management, decision support, these are all machine learning technologies which help us to make better decisions. And then you have the computer vision or natural language, which is a kind of a deep learning technology, and we've seen like two examples. The music is one example, creating music and then creating a piece of art. But from this slide, what is important, I think, to notice are three things. So artificial intelligence can really be translated or found in sectors which deal with automation, personalization, and prediction. Personalization, you have Netflix, for example, right? Every time you will watch a movie on Netflix or Facebook, every time you will do something on Facebook, these machines will capture the way you interacted, if you liked it, didn't like it, what type of movie, and then next time they will know what exactly, they would suggest what you may want to like or want to see or not. So also here we see that, this interaction machine and human can push us doing certain things, taking some decisions, informed or uninformed. So that's the personalization, and then the prediction is, for example, in the health industry, we find it a lot when it comes to treatment. These machines can predict if, based on your genealogy, based on your health background, will predict if you are going to have that type of diseases and what can be then done in advance to prevent the advancement of the disease. So that's these are the three main areas, I would say. Automation, that's obvious, right? I don't have to. Automation, personalization, and prediction. It will get a little bit more technical, but I promise you I will take you out of the technicalities in a few minutes, because I think it is very important we cannot talk about artificial intelligence without mentioning big data and smart data, right? Everybody's talking about it. Does anyone know what the difference is between big data and artificial intelligence? Okay, so big data means huge amounts of data available and accessible. This is what means big data, available and accessible. And so the limits, the difference between big data and artificial intelligence, the borders are a little bit blurry, so it's not that clear. But I think we can say that we can differentiate in terms of independence of action. Independence of action. That means big data, you'll have it a lot in the machine learning process, in the visualization, data management. Machine will capture all this data, will analyze it, and then it will present it exactly. And then we'll present it with a dashboard, basically saying this is where you are today and this is what you could do, but it stops here. It gives you an image of where you are today. Artificial intelligence goes a little bit farther, and it can even take a decision or propose a solution as a result. So that's the difference. Big data stops at the analysis. Artificial intelligence goes a step farther and can suggest or even make a decision on its own. So now scientists are also talking about, you have the AGI here. This is artificial general intelligence. So this is a case, this is a third dimension, and this is a case. So we said big data, it stops, it gives you a picture where you are today. Artificial intelligence adds up, it can make a decision on its own. AGI will be a mix of these two, and will be where the machine doesn't need a human to feed with any kind of information or train at all. So we are definitely not there yet, and we will see a video a little bit later on that, but this will be a kind of the third dimension, and this is why people are so afraid, saying robots are going to take the world over. But we are definitely not there yet. But that could be in some technology, that could be useful, and that could be possible. And we will also see it in the business a little bit later. I'm happy to see that many of you have a lot of background on these topics. Great, we'll have huge and interesting discussions.
Elena, can you just elaborate on AGI? I find that very interesting, and I think it's a new concept. I personally just found about it from you.
Yes. So the idea is that, let's say, in a business, for example, in a business you have the data, and you also have the decision. Yeah. So the idea is that if you have a a process which works perfectly in analyzing the data and is quicker. And then you also have a process which is amazingly good at taking decisions. These two combined, and that would, if we manage to make this work without a human intervention, that would be artificial general intelligence. Because for now, we are feeding the machine to make the decision, we are feeding the machine to analyze, and we are feeding the machine to make the decision. So if we manage to link these two, that would be, the machine will work on its own without any kind of external action from a human being.
So in real life, basically, it would be a self-correction system. So if there's like a machine working with another machine, and this machine has a problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they will interact with each other. I mean, it's already the case for some aspects, but this will be a kind of a stratospheric dimension. But scientists are looking into that, and there's a lot of research goes into that, and also on regulating kind of the sphere of developing such technologies. But we'll discuss a little bit later. So that's the third crazy dimension. Okay, how is AI used? I'm sure that you have, we mentioned a few types of AI application. No, we had Netflix, we said Facebook. Does anyone else has? Sophia. Yes. Sophia, the robot. The humanoid, not the robot. Okay, good. I think it's playtime now, and this takes me to my second video, and inshallah it will work. I think it's important, as I said before, and this is one of the reasons why we are here today, is because this technology today is applied in all aspects of our lives. If we know about it or if we don't know about it, it is out there. And it has its challenges, but it also presents a lot of opportunities for globally, for countries, for citizens, for everybody. Yes, and so let's have a look at we'll have a look at the video in a few seconds. But before that, I will grasp a little bit on your knowledge. And I have two questions prepared for you. As I said, I like to make it a little bit interactive, and I see there is appetite for that, so that's fine. Which sectors apply, if you know, of course, which sectors apply most of the AI technology today worldwide? Military. Okay, so we are looking at it in terms of money spent on innovating or buying this kind of technology. So there are three main sectors: transport, healthcare, and manufacturing. Why transport is transport or construction in general is because until now this sector was lacking a little bit of behind in terms of technology use. So now with all this data that we were talking about and new processes and new technologies, they really absorbed it immediately and are investing a lot of money or developing a lot of technology in this sense. Healthcare, again, and we will see it in the video, and manufacturing, retail, and it's again, it's by definition very, very important technology for them to have. And my second question, if you know who are the top 3 global giants investing in AI? Yes, but I mean in terms of companies. Yeah, so it fluctuates among this monsters of science, but Google is the first one, Amazon, and then Apple. How is this kind of calculated? These are amounts of money invested in startups which deal with artificial intelligence, and these are only the numbers that have been made public, of course. When in terms of acquisition, when Google or Apple Apple or Amazon were investing and buying startups. So transport, healthcare, and manufacturing, These are the three main sectors which use a lot of artificial intelligence. And then who is investing a lot of money in artificial intelligence? We have Google, Amazon, and Apple, obviously. Good. And now, yes, we'll go in a few seconds to the video. So in the video, you will see it's about 4 to 5 minutes. It's a very short video. And you will see AI application in agriculture, in retail, in transportation, and in healthcare. Maybe some of the examples you may have heard about it already, but I'm curious to have your views after the video. And and if you have any questions, I will be here. Just give me a few seconds to switch to the desktop and find the video. Yes, here it is. Now I have to up. Bear with me for a second. I just need to drag it on the other side, but I'm not sure it's working. Just a second. Because I thought YouTube would work in the building, but it doesn't work, so we fixed something.
No, we blocked it.
Great. It's good. It's very good. It was my fault. I should have asked before. Okay, good.
It's 61 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly sunny skies.
But robot overlords, sentient computers,
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Armageddon. This is what many people fear when artificial intelligence or AI comes to mind.
I'm Martin Hitch, and I'm the Chief Business Officer at Bossa Nova Robotics. I think AI is misunderstood. We have this expectation that it's going to take over, and the reality is we're many, many, many years away from AI being sentient.
Instead, what we are seeing today are devices like Amazon's Alexa, Google's Home, or Apple's Siri. These gadgets may sound sentient.
It's 61 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly sunny skies.
But really, they're far from it.
Hi, I'm Robert Monroe, and I'm the CTO of Figure 8. The AIs that we're building are AIs that we can smartly interact with. So they're not optimized to be independently intelligent. They're optimized to be our guides, our assistants, extensions of our memory.
Aside from consumer electronics, artificial intelligence's greatest promise may be in transforming entire industries. The underlying technology making this happen is known in the tech community as supervised learning.
You have humans who are able to provide the training data for algorithms to then automate a task. So for example, a self-driving car knows how to avoid a pedestrian, knows how to stay in the lane, because humans have sat down with images taken from the front of these cars and said, this is a human, this is the lane which marks the edge of the road. And it's these thousands and thousands of hours of human feedback which ultimately enables a self-driving car to be trained to automate this task.
Google's Waymo is on the forefront of self-driving car technology and is using supervised learning to drive it forward. But in fact, transportation is just one area that is booming in the field of artificial intelligence. Another is healthcare.
I am Fabian Beckers, CEO and co-founder of Artros.
Meet Arteries. Their machines have been trained on thousands of patient images, which gives physicians and radiologists better information for diagnosing cancer in the brain and lungs and also detecting dangerous heart conditions.
A radiologist normally has to be highly trained to look at the organ. They spend a lot of time sometimes just drawing contours by hand, like the ventricles or the atrium. And that takes a lot of time. And so what we have been working on is automating that and automating well. We train the system on 1,000 images where we know exactly what the answer is. There's a really quantum leap because the system can really propose a suggestion to the physician that will be very close to what he or she would have done.
Agriculture is also seeing a big change in the use of artificial intelligence.
I'm Jorge Herod. I'm the CEO of Blue River Technology.
This is Blue River Technology's See and Spray machine. Using artificial intelligence, the robot is able to detect which plant is a weed and which is a crop.
This is one of our 12-row machines. It goes through the field very fast. It's a very wide machine. And back there, there's a camera that is looking down at the ground. It looks at every single plant 50 times per second. Every camera that it has is looking at every plant and deciding, is this a crop, is this a weed, and applying herbicides only to the weed and nowhere else. And by doing that, we can reduce about 95% of the herbicides being used. We have a database that is growing really fast. Now it's close to 1 million images that we've collected across many different farms, many different geographies, that gives us the variability that these algorithms need in order to be trained and reliably detect which ones are weeds and which ones are crops.
From farming to the food that you shop for, AI is impacting the whole supply chain. At Bossa Nova Robotics, robots scan the aisles of the supermarket, aiding retailers in logging grocery inventory.
They're robots that are designed to move autonomously through a store, taking very high-resolution pictures of the shelves, and we then use a very complex AI engine that extracts data from those shelves. So think about product data, label data, the layout of items on the shelf, are they in stock, are they out of stock? All that information happens in near real time.
The robots use computer vision to see the store shelves and are trained on thousands of images to complete their task.
You can imagine now you're starting to gather a very, very large data set of products. We use that to train AI algorithms to identify specific features. If we're successful, we blend into the background and your shopping trip means you buy 100% of the items on your shopping list instead of 80% of them.
Of course, robots that can roam the aisles at the supermarket or tractors that can automatically graze crops is just the beginning. Experts believe a profound technological shift is underway.
Fantastic, it worked. Thank you very much to the technicians. Have to go back. So what did you think? Have you seen this video before? Yes, you did. And of course, and there are many more. For me, there was one aspect which was really, kind of interesting. Was in the introduction, the guy said, "Machines will not take over; they are an extension of our brain, of our, cognitive capabilities and person." That was an interesting way to put it. But any insights, any questions? Later. Great, fantastic. Yeah, I think it is really amazing, and as I said, it can be. Excuse me. Can't reach this page. Just a second. We are still not there yet, where the machine could just read my mind and and do what I wanted to do. Okay, all right. Good. Many challenges and also many opportunities are provided by by artificial intelligence. If no questions at this level now, then let's move into the economic growth and the potential that artificial intelligence has. Yeah. Yes.
I understand that Dubai is in the forefront of AI at a government level, right? But at a commercial and private sector level, who would you say is the leader in the MENA region, based on your research?
In terms of using this technology in the business, yeah, I think the UAE, it's still that they are the leaders in that, in terms of AI in general, and we will go a little bit into that. I have a few slides prepared. Just Dubai. Yes. Abu Dhabi is a little bit different, and but they are, Dubai has, they have many things around artificial intelligence. Apart from the fact that they have a ministry for artificial intelligence, they have the strategy. They are implementing the strategy. They have Dubai Future. They have hackathons, and they have they have an ecosystem around artificial intelligence, and they are really leading, the leading edge there. Okay. Again, a little bit of interaction. What are, in your opinion, challenges and opportunities with AI? And now we are talking globally. There are many, right? Okay, there are many, and there are different. So there are certain threats or certain challenges that are perceived by us, by normal citizens, but also by governments. And these challenges is just the list is not exhaustive, of course, and each region has its own challenges as well. And we will go for the MENA region and for Kuwait or the GCC countries a little bit more into detail later. But you can see that as an emotional level, people feel that there will be a massive job loss, that robots will replace humans, right? We were talking about that we, the humanity, is losing control on all this. And then we also have more threats which are, I would say, rational, although any kind of threat is justified. They are justified and they have to be addressed. Lose of competitive edge, competitiveness generally in the case where we as a human, for example, will not be, or even the government or a company will not be able to address the challenge, to address the future, to upskill or to integrate that kind of technology in our policies, in our reforms. Then we have, and then linked to that is a miss market trends and our place on the market. Then we have a failure to fully align AI goals with the values of humanity, and this is one of a big topic and issue for Europe or for the US, but for any kind of country today. They are really looking into that and trying to address this. And then if not managed properly, the transition, there is a risk of having a reduced engagement from the citizens and a reduced level of trust from the citizen. And also there is a challenge in ensuring development for AI responsible and ethical innovations. It's linked with the failure to fully align AI goals with the values of humanity, and we'll discuss on that. So these are challenges which are faced globally, and I keep saying AI is a global challenge. AI is not a local challenge or a national challenge, and it has to be addressed accordingly. In terms of opportunities, we obviously have more efficiency, an upskilling opportunity, I would say, learning new processes, developing ourselves in general. We will have a gain in terms of costs, and we will have a gain in terms of time. And even more importantly, and also because we are here today, AI is very much linked to any kind of reform, to any kind of sector, and therefore to our sustainable development goals. So it can definitely help on progress or developing these goals and ensuring progress on these goals, and we will talk a little bit later on that. And I will. The UN has already started addressing this issue. We have a question. Yes. Yes, you are completely right. We still have the security issue and data protection around that. And this will be another lecture to talk about cybersecurity and how to prevent or not to prevent that. I think no one has in this room, including myself, has a solution for that, but that's a big issue. And scientists and corporations are looking at that. Definitely, yeah, you're right. Okay. So these are just a few ideas on global challenges and opportunities that this technology can bring to you and also to the government or country. Now for the region and for Kuwait, the challenges are multiple. Along with what we have seen before, I try to highlight a few which I thought are very interesting. And of course, my last point is saying that ensuring the security and stability in the region has been a challenge for years, and it appears to continue to be a challenge. So we are blessed to be in a very safe country, but many countries around us are still facing this issue, and that has an impact on the region on an economic, social, and political level. Then a challenge to ensure gender equal opportunities. This is not only tied to this region or to Kuwait. This is a global challenge. Again, many countries, all countries are discussing about it and have integrated this dimension into their strategies, and we will see that a little bit later. And also achieving a balance between the technologies which will be human capabilities enhancing and those which will be replacing human work labor forces, and especially in this region and in Kuwait, which has a predominant men work labor more than other countries or more than other regions. So this will be a challenge to make that transition and make sure that everybody is on board and everyone is kind of taken care of. So these are kind of the specific challenges that I could see for the region, alongside with all the other global challenges. And if you have anything to add, please tell me. Yes.
In terms of ethics, from your perspective, or maybe in the body of literature that's around there, with regards to what we discussed earlier, like Netflix, for example, you watch one show, you're watching, or you're listening to one specific music, and the AI is guiding you towards a decision or some kind of predictive outcome, right? Is there an ethics issue in place? Is there a discussion around that as we're being guided towards some kind of,
Yes. So very, very, very good question. Yes, obviously there is an issue there, and I will touch upon this a little bit later in the presentation. But yes, so many countries are trying to address that issue and try to kind of regulate the development and the creation of this type of technology, while not reducing the innovation or the innovative side, right? So enhancing the innovation, but still making sure that what's going to be developed out there is aligned with, is protecting your citizens. And I will touch upon that a little bit later. So it's a big issue in Europe, in the US, and all over the world. Less in China, because China they have another approach to it. So if it works, they just don't care. They just do it. But it's not the approach of everyone, and it doesn't mean it's the best one or the worst one. It's just another approach. Every country has to see what really fits for themselves. In terms of opportunities, so some of them were already mentioned when we were discussing the global challenges and global opportunities. So obviously we'll have a new type of future of work with a new source of decision making, new skills, new processes. So it's a huge opportunity to grow and to develop and to absorb these technologies into our economical sectors. A new method of innovation, and which is a shift in the innovation process itself, and this goes back to the AGI I was mentioning, the artificial general innovation. It's exactly that. So what if now we have a big, very, very good analytical programs, and we have very good decision-making programs? What if these two could, kind of talk to each other without our intervention? That would be an innovation in the whole process itself. Another opportunity is to really be an early mover in all this AI race, because it is a global race on who owns the data, who can control the data at the global level, exactly at the regional level. You said it. So it is, but it's still in the early phase. So it's still an opportunity to position ourselves and enhance that and integrate that, as I said, in the reforms and in the policies, and become a global leader. And then, like as an ultimate main huge opportunity, it was Analysis Group. It's a consulting company basically, which last year I think, they calculated how much would be the value in terms of absolute value coming from AI in our processes, in our technologies by 2030. What would be the AI contribution to our economic growth by 2030 globally? And they are not the only ones. PricewaterhouseCoopers did the similar calculation. They came up with 15 trillion. But I think this is a little bit more reasonable, although the number is huge. So they identify 13 trillion in value by 2030 coming from these technologies globally, which is the current output of China and India today. It's a huge opportunity globally. And then for the region, this is a slide from PricewaterhouseCoopers. They had a study on the potential impact of AI in the Middle East. So you can see that they identified for the GCC countries around how much is it? 45 billion US dollars by 2030. If keeping kind of pace with investing in innovation, making sure that the startup environment is accordingly. But the big chunk of growth from AI in the region will be coming from the Saudi Arabia, which is now also moving very fast ahead on investing in technology, and they want to position themselves as another leader or as the leader in the region. I'm sure that you have heard about the NEOM project they have, so that will be very futuristic, and they definitely want to position themselves there. Then in terms of sectors, our industry sectors which will benefit from AI, they did a ranking, and as you can see again, construction, manufacturing, and that goes along with, they separated transport, but I think they're linked, will be the main sector which will benefit of AI, and then energy, utilities, and resources, obviously because we have a lot of oil here, so that's why energy is kind of linked, right? So that's our technology, and our economical resource mainly is coming from this type of natural resource. So that's, energy will come as a second position. And then the public sector. And that was very interesting for me to see that they, including health and education. So these are the three main sectors which will benefit from AI advancement and technology by 2030. But in fact, the numbers are beautiful, isn't it? It's good. It's very, very good. But it could be even better. And it could be even better if governments will be even a little bit more aggressive in terms of investing in innovation, having a permissive environment around that, making sure that startups are fitted with a framework for developing, but also with sufficient finances behind. And this is also by 2030, growth provided from AI by 2030 in different regions and countries. So you can see just an idea to give you an idea about the potential. You see China is like almost, somewhere 25%, and we have GCC, which is by 9%. So it could be, it doesn't have to be double, it doesn't have to be China, but the region has much more potential. Is young, is vibrant, is educated, and there are a lot of opportunities to enhance AI in general. Now, I would like to take you quickly through or discuss a little bit some of the national AI strategies that countries have developed around the world, and also touch upon international cooperation around AI, and then we'll discuss then the ethics and the moral issues around that. So there is an AI researcher called Tim Dutton, and he started a few years ago, like in 2016 or 2017, he started a database of countries around the world developing AI strategies. So his database is online, so if you are curious, you can have a look. And by now, we have more than 30 governments across the world who have issued strategies. So now each strategy is they are all diverse. Every country is different, has its own needs. Some are going a lot in depth. Others are, some topics remain, I wouldn't say superficial, but not as much elaborated. But nevertheless, they all have similar goals or similar targets. And so the first one is really to reform the education sector and develop local and human talent. The second one is to nurture scientific research and development in general. The third one is to create digital infrastructure and open data platforms. No, we were talking about big data. There is no artificial intelligence without data, and there is no artificial intelligence without big data. And there is no big data if you don't have an open data platform. So everything is linked, and of course it becomes a focus area and a priority for a country. And the fourth one is devising ethical standards, right? So the question from Mr. Albayr is very well positioned. What about that? So that is one of this country's priorities. So as I said, every country has its own speed, has its own needs, but that exists. Finland, for example, there are a few different approaches. So Finland has this strategy, which was developed together with their think tank, which is called Sigma. Sigma is it's not really it's independent. It's an independent think tank, but they work very, very closely with the government in terms of helping governments implement their government program and develop their reforms. They do a lot of foresight and research work on many fields. So they develop together their AI strategy, and parallel with that, since they were, they recognized like reforming the education sector as one of their priorities, they have developed, they have set first of all a challenge for themselves, saying we want to educate 10% of our population by 2020 on AI. And the way they did that, they created online curricula or online training programs for AI education. These are programs, this is a training for free, online. Everyone can have access to it, and it is in English, so even you, if you are curious, you can have a look at it. It's called Elements of AI, and it's a very good program, and they have almost reached their target, which was to educate the population on AI by 2025, like 15%. Elements of AI is the name. And I talked to the director there, and she told me that it was curious. They have access to the database, right? They have access to who is taking the courses, online courses, so on and so forth. And she said that one of the things which was curious to them was to see that the main population taking these courses was a population over 40, over 45. So you would think, I have expected other results, but that was very interesting for me to see that or to hear that, because that means, these are people who kind of have heard about it, are kind of afraid of the change, and they understand they have to keep up with it, and it's crucial. Yeah, it's crucial for them. So that was one of the insights, from the discussion with her, and So, as I said, many governments, they have really different approaches. France, for example, Cédric Villani, he's the AI advisor to Macron. I met him in Geneva when I went to the AI for Good summit, and he has a different approach. He says data should be, it's a global good. In his terms, it's a global good. Data should be open, should be accessible to everybody, which is not the case of Finland. Finland is much more protective on that issue, but each country has different approaches. And one thing that Villani again said, and I found very interesting, he said, artificial intelligence is not intelligence. And it cannot be intelligence. It's still, there is still a human behind it. It's not a machine operating alone, and that will never be the case. So that was I think, was an interesting way to put it. Yes, so international cooperation. There are a few initiatives. I just want to talk about three of them, and I will briefly mention the fourth one. So at the EU level, for example, in 2018, in April 2018, 25 countries at EU level signed a declaration on AI, saying that we want to make sure that all AI technology that is going to be developed in Europe or applied to Europe is going to respect ethical standards. It will be AI responsible, and it will be AI ethical. So there is, as you can see, in the European Union, of course, there are national concerns, like each country will have its own questions and issues, but they also understood that together we are stronger. So they have signed this declaration, and they have issued, last month in May, they have issued AI guidelines for AI responsible development in general. So each country or any kind of company which wants to operate at the European level has to apply and conform with these guidelines, these standards. Then another example is the UN, where the UN also understood the role of AI in implementing the Sustainable Development Goals and its importance. And here there are two UN strategies that are worth mentioning. The first one is the UN Secretary General's strategy on new technologies and the system-wide strategic approach. And the second one is the roadmap for supporting capacity development on artificial intelligence. So at the UN level, again, you have this kind of recognition of AI it as being a huge opportunity, but also a challenge. And apart from that, a very important tool in implementing the SDGs. At the European level, you have an alliance, there is a declaration, there are guidelines that have been issued in terms of AI responsible, AI moral, and more recently the OECD also issued standards for ethical AI, I think is the title. Again, it's another initiative, and countries are concerned, and we have to be concerned. That doesn't mean we have to stop innovation. We just have to have the right ecosystem in place. And each region, each country has to deal with this on its own. And then another initiative was coming from President Macron when he was speaking at the conference of in 2018. He was speaking at the Internet Governance Forum, and he suggested to have an international body for AI. Take it even to the next level. So there are a few initiatives which are obviously very very good and very very interesting. Now I thought about Kuwait, of course, because I'm here, and I don't think we have an AI strategy yet, right? No. Yes. So we don't have one, but I know that there is interest, and I know that there is. We have the Kuwait Vision 2035, and that includes a component on AI and technology as well. So I kind of identified a few focus areas that could be of importance, not only for Kuwait, but for many countries, for any kind of government which goes through that process and has to go through that process. So the first thing I identified would be to plan the long-term development of artificial intelligence. And here that means monitoring the strategies, making sure that you have budgets tied to it, and so on and so forth. The second one would be to ensure a robust and secure supply of data for AI-based applications, making sure that your startups or the startups are innovative in terms of AI and have the right ecosystem. The third would be to facilitate AI research and development, having the right skills in the universities, in research institutes, partner with research institutes and big research centers. The fourth one would be to support startups and test innovation of the AI application. And the fifth one, cultivate the skills to develop and apply AI. And the fifth, to trial AI in government services delivery and policy making. This goes, of course, with together with integrating or starting to integrate AI in schools, in universities, having a vision about the lifelong learning program. We were talking about elements of AI, right? So for those who are already on the job market, but would definitely need to upskill themselves. You know, we are talking about the World Economic Forum published many reports on this, saying that 65% of our children in schools today are going to do or to work or do jobs which have not been invented yet. So it's huge, right? So and it's coming so fast. The development is really, the progress of these technologies is a very, very high speed. We cannot wait. It's not like A, B, and C. We have to work in parallel on many sectors. Yes?
About the jobs, how many years do you think it will be different? The new jobs and the classic jobs?
Well, it's very difficult to predict. They are playing with the numbers, and I didn't mention that on one of the slides. It's clear what we do today and what we could do, but it's not that obvious how and exactly what the change is going to be and when the change is going to be. They talk a lot about 2030, but that again, it really depends on your government, it depends on the country, it depends on the region, many other aspects. But it is by 2030.
About the revolution, the fourth.
Yes, yeah, well, yeah, that's already in place. The fourth, exactly, that's already in place. Yes.
So let's say, for the sake of the argument, under specific standards, we had some fundamental data sets, and we've been allocated like commercial land use from the municipality. Then open data platforms were allocated for SME development and capacity building purposes. And then the big data providers, mostly from Lebanon companies, came and provided the platform with big data. And then developing on that, we came up with artificial intelligence. But then this whole thing became a cyber system. And we can carry it on from land to another one easily, which is very phenomenal for this stage of development. But we haven't talked, and you haven't addressed the issue of real-time machine learning. After the whole cyber system did maybe 10 successful consecutive cycles, it should learn from within its own, because it's an artificial intelligence after all. It should have the ability to relearn from its own consecutive successful cycle to produce you a machine learning module, let's say. Who's controlling the machine learning at the moment?
Well, yes, who is controlling it? I think those who have programmed it at the beginning. There are certain parameters in which I'm not a technical, expert on. I never done a machine learning. Never programmed a robot.
It's learned by themselves.
Yes.
This is by searching, when I'm searching. Each one.
They become an intelligent cyber system.
Exactly, like.
You have to govern the whole movement of this thing before go into something that is unwanted and the initial goals and objectives of the initial development.
Yes, so this goes back to the cybersecurity question we had a little bit around, and that is a big issue, and it's still, the scientists still didn't figure out all the details of it for now, and that's why they are very cautious and precautious for now. For now, the machines which are developed are working within some parameters. They learn by themselves, as we saw in the movie, in the video, in the agriculture sector, that machine has a camera. So the camera, every time it passes, registers images, and it learns for the next time, and then next day it does the same. So it learns by itself without, at the beginning there is a huge work by the humans to put in this information, but after that the machine learns by themselves and is learning and developing in the parameters defined at the beginning. And yeah.
Open platform, open data platform, or while putting the big data in the platform?
For me, these are more or less the same. Open data means you open your data, and this is what makes data big data. Big data means availability and accessibility. So when I say accessibility, that means open data for me. Do you have any?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know that about Sophia? There is one conference. There is two machines, Sophia and the other one I forget their name, and they talking to each other.
In a language, yeah.
Yeah. Do you actually? Do you know?
I've seen it. Yes.
Yeah. Then they close it. They shut it. What's happened? I have very. To know what's happening.
There are many issues around it, right? And that goes back again to his question on cybersecurity and the development. So there was also a case, I think it was Microsoft or IBM, one of these two. They created two machines and they started talking to each other, and that the scientists didn't know what this language was and that what they were doing, so they had to shut down the machine. Yep.
Yeah.
So there are issues. There are issues around it, and that's why we have to do two things, right? We have to understand what's happening, we as citizens or as a government or as a developer, and then make sure that the parameters for the development are correct. So it is, since the machine is learning by itself, and this goes into the artificial general intelligence, there is a moment where they can, start talking to each other. Now scientists are still saying, no, we are very far from that, and we've also seen it in the video. But then we have cases where the reality is a little bit different. So there is a challenge and an opportunity.
Okay. I want to ask you about the quantum. Now that the new, the quantum is different than the big data.
Yes.
Can you explain the quantum?
I think it's similar to the artificial general intelligence, where the data will be reproduced by itself. It's similar to this too. We were talking, you have a system with analytical and the other one which is on the decision-making level, and then you would have, this will be the innovation, right? So you will have this too. Yeah. Yeah.
It's the same.
It's similar. This is the data behind it, and then the artificial general intelligence will be the process. Yes.
We have tried, like you're planning a grid, like plain language here with the artificial intelligence, like a grid, and then you supply it with an electrical charge. That's at the beginning. Then you open your data, then you make it bigger, and then you make it artificial intelligence, and then you do the machine learning, and then you wrap this whole signal from the initial electrical charge on the grid and after the machine learning. And you close it, and the initial charge will remain equal at the end after the machine learning and the whole process of big data. And what's in the middle is just signaling interval.
Yes.
We have fun.
For what, sorry, for the quantum or for the?
For the whole process of cybersecurity or cyber system.
Okay, I'm not a cybersecurity expert, unfortunately, but if you want, if there is interest for that, maybe there can be another talk organized to cybersecurity, because it is a burning issue, definitely. Yes.
Speaking about the justice-focused areas, as a policymakers, how can you address the law, artificial intelligence, before I plan to disseminate it? I mean by that, I am a country that I suffer from a huge lack of capability in implementation. So I have level of my talents and human resources are not so enough, not the level to follow this huge increase in technology. So I'm focusing on my education system. How can you offer a solution to as limitation as to cure my education system by using artificial intelligence? Since that you said that artificial intelligence can learn, this learning can be supervised, it can be also unsupervised. It can identify some patterns, profiles, so detect weaknesses, strengths. So how can I explore this to enhance my education system?
Yes, if I had a answer to that, I would be here, maybe. But I have a slide on that. You are right. There are certain things there are certain gaps in the region. But it's not only this region, there are many other regions as well. Like coming from Romania is a similar problem in Romania. We have, we call this national gaps, kind of, where certain parts of the countries are more developed or better in education than other parts of the country. I think, as we see, looking at the speed with which this technology is advancing, progressing, and by that it means the impact that this technologies is having is going to have on us economically, politically, socially. We have to work in parallel. We can't work in silos. It has to be on many grounds and tackling many aspects of the society. To give you an example, I gave you an example of Finland having these online courses provided to the population is a way to reach a certain part of the population. In Singapore, they have robotics in kindergartens. That doesn't mean that every child is going to be a programmer or a robot developer, but they learn very important skills, which is cause and effect, and which is critical thinking, decision making. These are the skills that they are learning in the process. There are many, other ways. Kuwait doesn't have to have robots in kindergartens, but there can be other programs to tackle this part of the population, and then developing new curricula, having a different approach to maths at school, being it in the universities or also in high schools. But there has to be. It cannot be only I fix 9 to 15 years old and that's it, I fixed the whole problem. Is not the case, because it's, as we see, these technologies are cross-sectoral and they are moving at a very, very fast speed, and there have to be awareness campaigns, there have to be informative campaigns coming from schools, coming from the government. It has to be owned by the government itself to have a national impact. Obviously there has to be a collaboration and cooperation with the business sector, with the private sector, or with the academia, with the researchers, but there has to be, first of all, there has to be a vision about it, and there has to be a looking forward, and that's why I put, the first recommendation would be to plan and have a long-term development of AI. Where do we want to go? And then start developing on that. But I have one little slide on that. It is, each country is different, but really my recommendation would be you can't start with or just one thing. It has to be in parallel, and it has to be a lot of it, a lot and good. Yes.
Maybe just to play devil's advocate. So here's my comment. Are we creating a new class of elites? That's one. Leading me to my second comment. When I started reading about AI early back 5 years ago, there was two school of thoughts, right? One school of thought that said, fast forward the future, with AI, with blockchain, all these new technological advances, us humans will have more leisure time, assuming that there's an optimization of efficiency in businesses, in government, and so on. Is that true or not? And the second school of thought is that we're creating this new class, right, of elite or you name it, and there's a huge segment of society at the bottom which will not be up to par, which will not be able to upskill themselves because they weren't there in the beginning, and they don't have the capacity to learn a new skill. So where does that leave them? And which school of thought do you follow, and what is your argument on that? Leading me to my third question is, do you see a future 20, 30, 50 years where AI and all these new technological advances will be part of STEM education, will be a fundamental basic right for every human, such as reading and writing? Very heavy questions, but very important.
True, very true. Where do I start? Maybe the last question. So if I understand correctly, it was if artificial intelligence will be a basic right? Yes. So the UN is looking at it like from a human rights perspective and saying, we have the right as a human to be protected in terms of data protection, or freedom of speech. So if we have technologies influencing that, we were discussing about Netflix. So where do we place all that, and what are, from a human rights perspective, where do we place artificial intelligence? Well, I think. I don't have a clear answer on that. I can just share with you my thoughts, which I think artificial intelligence should be. What does it mean, human right? It cannot be a human right, but it should be a global. It should be a global good. Can become a global good, in my opinion, as long as we talk about data, which is our data, basically. As long as we talk about, I have access, they have access to, they can influence, so on and so forth. So it should be a global good, and they should be very, very well informed about any type of, Netflix using and influencing me. So be informed about any type of technology which is in a way or another interacting with me, interacting with my cognitive capabilities and my perception. I don't have an answer to that, but this is more, I would rather move towards the global good dimension than the human rights. But it's a very good question. I mean, even the HR managers, they are thinking I'm going to have to deal with an algorithm or with a robot in my team. How is that going to work? Do I apply? Who is responsible for the chatbot? Right? Who is responsible for the chatbot? Is the HR team responsible for the chatbot, or the technology company developing it? So there are certain issues, and I think it's difficult to say exactly. Then your second question, which is linked to the first one, right? So leaders and like in any type of revolution, in any type of development. There were certain things which will be new, certain things which will be modeled, and some people. But as in the past, as we have seen with many other economic developments, more jobs will be created. In fact, but maybe jobs for which not everybody will have access to it due to the lack of skills or lack of understanding. So here, it's really the role of the government to play in making sure that as many citizens as possible will be ready for the future of work, right? Would that be 2030? Will that be sooner? We don't know, but we have to start today. what is going to happen with those who are not trained and skilled? So again, there is no definition or no one opinion what that's going to be like. Countries are experimenting with the universal income, creating a universal salary for everyone. Finland was one of the promoters in that sense, and also Denmark. It has some good results, it has some bad results, because they realize that not everybody is going to keep up with the pace, and not everybody is going to be fully integrated on the job market. And another dimension is they are looking into how can we recognize jobs or roles that people were having or citizens were having without really being paid for, like being a mother, for example. They're thinking of changing that into a profession and saying and getting paid for it. So they're trying to see where are the social activities, or not even social activities, human activities, which can be recognized and transformed into jobs, because nowadays in other parts of the world, not everybody wants to have a child, not every woman wants to be a mother, and those who sacrifice themselves and become mother and stay at home and take care of the children have no recognition, in financial recognition, let's say, and sometimes the societies also have another regard on that. So they are trying to see how they can balance that so that they can provide different options, but it's still a very tricky one. And that's why countries are developing these strategies, trying to implement. But there is a bigger issue, as what you were just highlighting. So we'll have a kind of a two separate classes. I hope not. I hope that governments will be able to take the citizens with themselves, have the right upskilling programs in the schools, and make sure that those who will not be there by the time being will have other activities or social contributions which will be recognized in a proper way. For example, I've seen that in France for elderly people or retired, they have created regional, or in their town they have created houses, social houses, where these people can come and can help. For example, if you have skill, you are retired and you know how to play an instrument, you can go to that house, spend your time there, and also help a child learn how to play the piano or whatever that kind of instrument. So kind of recognizing, bringing them all together, making them feel useful in the society and having a contribution, but in the same time recognizing it by the society in which they are living, and in a meaningful way. So we'll have to be creative there and see what else, because each of us has its own potential, even if they will not be, able to keep up with certain things, but each human being has another potential, and that will be the most creative part of a government, to find that kind of collaboration and interaction. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's just my thoughts on that. It's difficult to say.
Yeah, partially, but I think just the last question that wasn't really answered clearly. So which school of thought do you affiliate yourself to? More leisure time for us as citizens, as things are more optimized and efficient, or there are winners and losers, and this is the economy, and the economy will be really appreciated pretty much?
Yeah, I don't believe in winners and losers. I think we are all winners in a certain way. I've seen a play, L'éloge de l'oisiveté. It talks about exactly this, like what if we had more spare time, and it was written by, it was an economist in the 20th century, Russell, a British economist, who said normally we human beings are made to be creative, are made to be inventive. So normally we shouldn't work more than 4 hours per day. That would be enough for us to pay all our bills, because there is enough wealth on this planet. It's not well distributed always, but with working 4 hours per day, that should be enough. And the rest of the time, we should invest in arts. We should invest in developing ourselves. And so this one, an economist, he had this idea, put it out there. And then the Queen, of course, said, "Oh, but what are all these people going to do if they're free time? We have to keep them busy, So and you see, like 100 years later, we have this kind of dialogue. Okay, we'll have people who will not be able to join the workforce, and we'll have a lot of them with leisure time. I don't think there will be winners and losers, or at least I don't like to call them like that. But it is an issue, and it has to be addressed. I would be happy with having to work less and dedicate more time, maybe to some other activities which make more sense for me. Another thing is the etymology of the word work. Dates back to let's say the 4th, the 5th, the 6th century, was actually torture. I don't know if you knew that, but in France at least was torture. So from there to here, nowadays, if you tell someone I have no job, they will look at you like that, right? So it's exactly the opposite what was the case many 100 years ago. It's It's difficult to say, but I don't think there will. I'm not an adept of the school saying there will be winners and losers, and that's just the way it is. No, I think it's each of us' responsibility first to get a little bit out of our comfort zones, be creative, try to understand what's happening. It's our own responsibility to develop ourselves. And then, of course, business, government, academia has a role to play in creating the ecosystem for us to develop. Any more questions on this? Yes. You mean if AI could draft the policy, the technology could? That's a great question. Well, technically, I think it can be possible to a certain extent, of course. I mean, there are in Finland they have, and also in Canada, they have robot judges. So already in the courts, in the judiciary, you have this kind of machine which have been fitted with many sentences, many decisions which have been taken, and now they can, take their own decisions. Then, of course, when you talk about machine learning, has a huge ability and capability of absorbing a lot of data, and this is what we have in governments: a lot of laws, a lot of regulations. So it can be a possibility to a certain extent, at least to help the decision maker be informed and have a better view on many options.
They have doctors,
Yeah.
lawyers now.
Yes. Exactly.
To add on your comments, is there a risk of inherent biases when we feed that to end? So how can we work around that?
Yes. we can't really, not that I'm aware of, we can't really work around that, but we are aware of it. And yes, there is a risk of having biases, and there were many examples of machines which were biased or discriminating against because of the data fed to the machine was containing bias elements, being it gender bias or any other kind of racial elements and aspects to it. So the scientists are not now getting the science, the technology behind is getting better and better in identifying these biases. But yeah, there is still a risk, but we are getting better. We are definitely getting better. There was a case with LinkedIn, for example, where just a second, where again, it's personalization preferences. So some jobs were more proposed to men than men CEO, than women or female CEO, just because either the data which has been fed to the machine was more men-linked data, or the developer itself has its own bias, and that's another dimension. So one thing is the data, and the other thing is the developer, which are over 65-70% of the developers of AI are still men or are men, and this, we are all humans, we all have our own brains and ideas, and we can have a little bit of bias in developing this kind of technology, and that's why we definitely need more women developers on that front. Yeah, there was a question, please. That's one of the challenges, and but as I said, the technology is getting better and better in identifying this biases. But it's still a risk, and this is why we are talking today about moral, ethical issues. Having in Europe, they issued the GDPR, which is a directive at the European level about data protection, data security. Especially for this, and then again, you have different alliances, global standards of developing a certain technology. Yeah, it's and Facebook is one of the big scary actors for me. I'm still on Facebook, but every time I go on Facebook, I'm like, I should get out. But yeah. Yes, it is, but I'm still not afraid of AI. I definitely see the opportunities. And exactly, so that's why. That's why. It's one of the reasons why you have it, because, as I said, the programmers are still behind it, and some of them may have a lot of fun doing these tags. So, but about the tag, I have another slide. But there is one more question, yes. Algorithm,
so
yeah.
You can link between them and find the more efficient combination that gives the best results. So when they give them see you as man, and the results of their work and other data, maybe the machine is the town to discriminate men from women because of the result of work. It is based on data and not as derivative opinion. No, machine is also machine. It learns and it will respond as the way it was learned. And there is adaptation on what we call unsupervised learning. That when the machine tends to find some minimum distance between data that combine a profile, that made a profile. So machine learning, that's what I think personally, that machine learning is not scary. It seems that it is, as the French man said, artificial intelligence is not that intelligent, that we are a human, we are conceiving that.
Yes.
They have more potential, a lot of potential.
Exactly, there is a lot of potential. I like to make this differentiation between AI and machine learning by saying machine learning gives you the correct result and AI gives you an optimal result. So taking many other parameters into consideration, as you just said. More questions? Yes.
Last question, but this is another deeper, bigger philosophical question. Fast forward to the future, 50, 100 years, and where AI technology is going and all this investment is being poured into AI and all these new frontier technologies. Do you, first, I mean, how do you define consciousness, right? And do you think that AI machine will ever be a conscious machine, or conscious being, you can say?
Yeah, also here, very, very, very tough and good question.
Is that what we're heading towards? Is that where the technology, the R&D, and the developers are?
It will be very useful to a certain extent, to a certain degree, but it's also very scary, right? So, and I think this is, it also taps again into the artificial general intelligence, basically. I think that technologically it will be possible. But there are still certain things which differentiate and will always differentiate us from the machine. And these are emotions, and this is the creativity. So every time I talk to certain people, really more into the AI, they say the creativity, human behavior in general, this will be something that the machine will never be able to replicate, because this is, I don't know, because this is us, and because it's very difficult to put into data. It's very difficult to be so specific about certain things that it can be then programmed. It will have its own conscious within its own parameters, but will not have our consciousness. I don't see it happening. Yes, but it learns my behavior, but I'm still a step ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, if you allow me, I think that's one argument, and I think the other side of let's say, the garden is the argument of, yes, it could mimic to some extent, it could gather all the data of the 7 billion souls around the world and understand how we think and understand and track a history of the way we've been doing things and the decisions that we made, okay? Thus, creating its own paradigm within its community, if there is a community of AIs together, and then creating a super kind of paradigm which might be better than ours. I think we've seen a couple movies in the past that create a different world and it takes you into VR and the AR and whatnot. I mean, this is a huge, long debate, huh? And then you have the convergence of where does religion and science stand and where do they overlap? I mean, but I don't want to off track this whole discussion, but I mean,
yeah.
Yes. That's why there is a war now between China and the US.
Yes.
About the data, because if I have all the data, the big data, I have your behavior and other region behavior, then I can
control and
all these
give you preferences.
That's why now most of the governments now they are hackathon between get the big data that they have to analysis their decision.
Yes.
To be more easier for them.
Well, as I said, technically it would be possible. I don't know, maybe I'm too afraid to see it happening. I don't know. I don't, yeah. It's, but technically it can be possible, but still you have dimensions which are, I mean, it can capture, it is a momentum that it captures, it can learn by itself, but there are many other parameters which come into our lives and make us react or feel in a certain way which cannot be taught to a machine. We are versatile, we are adaptable. It's difficult to put it in words, I think, but these are all many parameters with which we interact every minute, which cannot be really captured and quantified or transformed into data. It can, yes, it can create another level, another layer for specific situations, and as you said, within their parameters, but we are a little bit more than that. But technically it can be possible to a certain extent, I think. But I'm not it's just one opinion among others. And yes, there is a battle for the data because this kind of development could be possible technologically, but there are many other aspects, I think, to be taken into account. You think it will be possible?
I mean, honestly, I think this is where we're heading towards, and I think that's why there's a huge lobby that's working against AI, right? And we've seen that even in the frontiers of science and R&D, we're able to clone animals right now. You know, rewind 30, 40, 50 years ago, people would have said you're insane. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Now we understand the genome map, and we can do many things where in the past, I mean, if you told someone, they would tell you you're ludicrous, you're a witch. Right?
3D printed.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, the level of advancement we've been having in the past 20, 30, 40 years, it's crazy.
True.
You know, like, for example, an iPhone or WhatsApp for my father, which currently is 89 years old, God bless him, he doesn't understand what's WhatsApp. He doesn't understand what's an iPhone. He still uses a Nokia, and he's still living in the 60s and the 50s. That's the mindset of the paradigm he's working in, right? The paradigm we're working in is completely different. And the paradigm that our kids will be working in is completely different.
True.
And I think, as my colleague said, if you're able to collect the body of data that's around the world, and you can analyze it as an AI, you can have a track record, you can have a history, which for me is a big question mark, because you're able to predict outcomes. And if you're able to predict outcomes, you can predict wars, you can predict diseases, many things, right? You can have a whole historical graph of different events that shape life and shape the world.
True, this is already happening, the prediction. So the police is using artificial intelligence to predict crime, for example, crime zones exactly, infrastructure, like which piece of infrastructure will have to be redone. So that's already out there, that's not new.
Yeah, it's not new, but here's the argument, you know, when we talk about ethics and having, and talking about fair play, right? Some have wealth to buy that technology or to purchase that information, talking about data, which might give Faris an advantage over which neighborhood he wants to buy a house in, over Muhammad, which doesn't have the affordability to purchase this predictable knowledge, and he's stuck in a neighborhood that's completely different. And then apply that on different levels and paradigms of daily life.
Yes, yeah.
This is everyone, you know?
Yeah, definitely. They say, data is the new oil. That's why, as you said, that's why everybody is struggling for having the data, being a first mover in the whole process. I'm thinking just a small, of course, at a much smaller scale, but I'm making a parallel with internet. we still have a lot of people not connected to the internet nowadays. That gives us an advantage over them as well. So internet, even today we kind of have to another dimension, but we have that this kind of gaps as well, or certain elements which make us more powerful over others. And inclusion, exactly. So, and that's why we have to make sure that our countries are placed at the right time, at the right moment, that our citizens are informed and they are taken care of. But it's always, there is always a technical discussion on AI and a philosophical one. And the philosophical one, it's a little bit more complicated to have, and but it's very good to have it, of course, and start thinking of it. Okay, so I think I have the feeling I don't need to ask this question anymore. I have the feeling that everybody is already on board and convinced that this is kind of the future and we have to be alert and understand it. But I will still... does anyone know who participated to the African IT Summit among the speakers? And we have Sophia. Yes, you were just mentioning it. So we have already representation of humanoids at conferences. Was it? Yeah, could be. I thought it was more recent, but maybe you're right. And then going back to the question of how can we educate on AI, how can we integrate that? So I am the CEO and founder of AIDA, which is Artificial Intelligence for Development Agency. We have different pillars of activity, but one of the main pillars is raising awareness and informing about AI, like what I'm doing today here. And in Kuwait, I launched this weekend the AI Family Challenge, Artificial Intelligence Family Challenge 2019. I partnered with a local NGO, the Google Developers Group, and Women Tech Makers to launch it. And we have, I hope it will work. It was a very interesting discussion that we had with the families coming there. We need 30 families. We had only 3 or 4, so we still have a long way to go. The challenge will start in August, it's very soon. But nevertheless, there was interest. People were curious, so they came to understand what it was. Many came, as I said, just out of curiosity. And other families came really prepared and are taking this challenge very seriously. And you will hear from this little guy what he has to tell you about his solution. So basically the challenge consists in a family identifying an issue for the community, being water management, waste management, whatever that is, that can be fixed with AI. And then they are taking it to a training program for free for 6 months. They will learn how to program their own machine learning to fix that solution, and then they will pitch it. And around the world, 6 families will have the opportunity to, will be awarded a trip to Silicon Valley. So yes, that's huge, isn't it? So please talk, please communicate around in your family. So it's only 20 hours commitment. It's really not much, spread for 6 months, and then maybe we can put Kuwait on the map of this challenge and have families going there. But enough about myself or talking about this project. Let's see what this guy has to say.
And then the water gets so hot because most of the heat is trapped inside the ocean water. So corals can't live in a too cold or too hot ocean. So they suffer and they put on a coat and it gets even hotter. So they start to die and they become white, and that's the moon. But after that, even the words die out and they only become rocks.
You know what I mean? And you know what?
So he was talking about he's talking about cleaning the ocean, the beaches, and taking the waste out of the ocean, and he was explaining in his words how all this waste in the ocean bottom affects the corals, and he wants to have a solution which will fix that problem. And this is, as I said, it was this weekend in Kuwait. So children are already thinking about it, they are already grasping it, the families are interested in it, and it is our future. And that's another way maybe of tackling kind of education and raising awareness about AI in your community, along with having the right curriculums and so on and so forth. So I am done for today. Thank you very, very much for a very, very interesting discussion, for being here and for sharing with me your views. And if you have any questions, I'm here and I'm happy to answer them. Thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. Really appreciated you taking the time today to enlighten and educate us on AI. I think this was an eye-opener. But as I always say with our lectures, whether internal or external, this is only the beginning, and it is only the aesthetic part of the whole subject matter. And I think you've done a tremendous job sparking some interest in some of the minds here. And hopefully maybe in the near future we can continue this discussion and have a deeper dive into AI and the world of, or the world that we're getting ready to launch ourselves in the front. Thank you so much, Elena, and I invite everyone for the buffet outside. If you guys want to talk to her offline or on the side, you're more than happy. Thank you.